Self-worth is a very popular term that we throw around these days. But what does it really mean to know your worth? How do we determine our worth? How do we measure our worth? And how do we get what we are worth? I believe a lot of people say know your worth when they don't know what else to say. And I think a very important step is being skipped with the whole know your worth movement. The first step that we have to find out is, what is a person measuring their worth against, or what they're measuring their worth with? If we are measuring our worth with a scale that is broken, or that is unbalanced, or a scale that was never meant to measure our worth to begin with, then we can never possibly know our worth. So the question I always like to ask, or I think a question we should ask ourselves is, who broke our scale? This kind of takes me back to the question that God asked Adam and Eve when it was in the Garden of Eden, when he said, who told you you were naked? Yeah, who told you you were worthless? Who told you that you would never amount to anything? Who conditioned you to believe that you were not good enough? So many of us are measuring our worth by the words that were meant to break us. We're measuring our worth by the words of someone that abandoned us, or someone that neglected us, or someone that abused us. When those words or that scale was never meant to measure our worth to begin with. And we can never get an accurate measurement if that's what we're using to figure out what our value and our worth is. Some of us value or put our worth into social media, the likes or the love or the hearts that we get. Some of us get our worth out of material items, such as the car that we drive, or the clothes that we wear, or the hairstyle that we have. Some of us put our worth in our physical appearance, on how sexy we are, when all those things are temporary. So if we're putting our value, if we're finding our worth in the things that will not last, those things that will be here today and gone tomorrow, those things that will be yesterday's news, then we'll find ourselves constantly searching for worth. It's kind of like when you buy a car off the lot, or if you lease a car, as soon as you pull it off the lot, it decreases in value. And 2 years later, you find yourself going back to the dealership. 2 years later after that, you're going back because we constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses, or find our worth in things that often change or constantly change. So the question is, what scale are you using to measure your worth? What scale are you using to measure your value? So you would never know your worth, or we would never know our worth, unless we are using the proper scale, unless we are using the proper measurements. If you're a person that has a kid, you'll probably remember a time when they were growing, and you'll take their height with a measuring stick. And of course, they always wanted to return a favor and measure your height, but they could only get up to maybe shoulder length, or maybe your neck. And they'll say something like, "Mommy or Daddy, you're about 4 feet tall." But that's because they could only reach, or they could only measure as high as they could see. And that's the same way the person that's trying to chop you down to size, the person that tried to break your scale, the person that tried to tell you that was nothing, the person that abused you, the person that neglected you, the person that left you. They could only measure you so high because they were only so high, or only so tall. So all they could do is chop you down to size. So you have to remember, those scales, those bars, that someone that was beneath you, or someone that didn't know their own worth and tried to bring you down to their worth. Those are the scales that we have to throw away. Those are the measuring tapes that we cannot use to measure our worth. So I implore you to truly find out what you're worth and truly find the correct measuring tape or the correct scale to figure out what your worth really is. And that's the only way you will truly know your worth. Have a blessed day.